Joining me now to talk more about Hillary's document drop, or at least the document drop from the FBI about Hillary, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations and American Enterprise Institute senior fellow John Bolton. He's also a Fox News contributor. Good to see you, Ambassador. The first thing I want to talk about is there's a lot that she can't recall. Of course, that's kind of a standard inside the Beltway response, but she can't recall when she got security clearance. She can't recall when she was trained on how to handle classified information. She can't recall managing secrets of special access programs, and that's just the beginning. I'm just wondering, you must have had some of these courses on how to handle secrets. Do you recall?
Sure, I remember those sorts of things, because if you're conscious of the need to protect classified information, you remember what the rules are. This is a good example, this category of can't recalls that you mentioned, a good example of why this testimony is simply not believable. In fact, I think a lot of it is just outright falsehood. Let's remember, she was also on the Senate Armed Services Committee for 6 years before she became Secretary of State. She had to have a much better knowledge of what was classified and what was not classified, how you handled sensitive materials. If she didn't, if that's really her testimony, then she was an incompetent manager of tens of thousands of people at the State Department who do have to follow the rules, even if she doesn't think she does.
Now, this is the first time I heard, there may have been another time, where she actually used the fall she had and the bump on the head, which led to a concussion, as a reason why she couldn't remember certain incidences. Is that going to sell, do you think?
Well, doesn't the hypocrisy bell go off here at some point? You know, people are not allowed to talk about Hillary Clinton's health unless you're Hillary Clinton and you're trying to beat an indictment. Then you can talk about Hillary Clinton's health.
Well, talk about hypocrisy. There is also this revelation in the notes that she had 13 different devices, and these are just the handheld devices. She also had about at least five iPads. That kind of contrasts with what we heard her say a few months back. Listen.
I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two. Looking back, it would have been better if I'd simply used a second email account and carried a second phone, but at the time, this didn't seem like an issue.
So she just had one device. Maybe she's very sloppy, because she might have destroyed 13 devices, but it's unlikely she did so, right?
Yeah, look, this is just an untruth, and I think what the report also reveals is that many of these devices cannot be located now. Her own staff knew she was careless when she got a new device. What happened to the old one? Now, maybe they were all recycled or destroyed according to department policy, but there's no evidence of that, and that's a goldmine for foreign intelligence if they get hold of these devices.
Yeah. Well, all of this is a goldmine for Donald Trump, because her main hit against Donald Trump is that he's dangerous, that you don't want a wild man like Donald Trump with his finger on the red button. What does all this, what we learned today, show, if not that Hillary Clinton was very dangerous in the way that she was handling top secrets?
Well, I think it's extraordinary, and if it tells us anything about her performance as president, if she's elected, it ought to scare people. I mean, there's so many untruths. The idea that she didn't recognize that the C in front of some paragraphs in her own emails reflected confidential information. She said, well, maybe it was part of a list, A, B, C. Look, the Secretary of State, other senior officials get documents all the time with each paragraph labeled what its classification is. TS for top secret, U for unclassified, C for classified. She knew what that C meant, and she was not telling the truth. And the worst part is the FBI investigators did not follow up. They didn't press her on that question.
I guess not, although, frankly, I read the whole thing. It's hard to tell because so much of it has been redacted. But there is another glimmer in here of how bad things got. Apparently, she believed that she was breached. We'd never heard that before from her publicly. So if there's indications because of certain things that the computer did that it possibly was breached, and she actually mentioned it to somebody.
Yes, and she keeps going, nonetheless, using the private server. I mean, this really was a demonstration of gross negligence when you go through her entire statement, and it was an example of why the FBI really amended the critical statute to require an intent, when the point of the statute was to protect against this kind of carelessness that allows information to get into the wrong hands just because of the inadequacy of the person handling it, i.e. Hillary Clinton in this case.
You never had to have intent before. It was just the reckless handling of top secrets. Ambassador, great to see you. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you, David.